Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Live. We're back to Tuesdays. I'm super excited to be doing this on Tuesdays. Except for I did have an identity crisis today and thought it was Wednesday because we're doing this live. So I was all panicked about getting Wednesday things done. I was like, wait a minute, I have a whole nother day. So this is great. We're on this week with Tag from Life Done Free, who we've had on before, and we get to catch up with how things are going in Kansas. And then, of course, John Willis from Special Operations Equipment. I'm Nicole Sauce with Living Free in Tennessee. If you have questions you want to ask us, please put the first couple words at least in all caps. That way I'll see them and I can mark them with a little star for follow-up. And then, of course, if any of the three of us hit you up and invite you off into a private chat room, that's not us. I actually have acquired a new imposter this week who's an actual person who's doing it maliciously. Don't know who they are. I'll eventually figure. I don't actually care who they are. I will figure out how to shut them down. But they came up with some pretty clever ways of impersonating me, including using a username where they replaced the L in my name with an uppercase I. So it looks like an L. So I don't know. Have you ever had anybody that dedicated to trolling you, John?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I get them every day. I have a printout of
Yeah. So anyway, so none of us are going to hit you up and ask you for Bitcoin or show you the greatest new deal. If we have a new deal we want to talk about, we'll just talk about it here and then we can discuss it openly and you can decide if it's worth your time or not. With that, Tag, tell us how's it going in Kansas? How's life been since Self-Reliance Festival?
Oh, you kidding? I mean, I'm absolutely living a dream. You know, I get up every day. I do what I want every day. I'm completely off grid. I'm not dependent upon pretty much anybody. I mean, I've still got some stuff, right? Taxes and cell phones. But yeah, living a dream. Our community's growing. We added 4 new families this year. So our numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely great. You know, it's fun being able to be in a position in my life to challenge everything. And I'm doing exactly that. Every single thing I'm challenging. And it's fun.
That sounds fun. John, what's the word from the compound?
Same as always. That's why our stuff works, because we do the same thing over and over and over, right? That's the foundation.
That's the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, in my opinion.
Well, there's not a magic pill, right? So if you want more money, work more, or if you have money, your money will make money, and then you don't have to work more. I mean, there's 2 ways. You're going to trade your time for money, or you're going to have your money make money.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody likes answers that simple, though. You need to like package that all magically, right?
I want an extra $2,000 every day. So I'm building product, right? I'm building a new bag. I'm building them. I'm cutting them. We're doing video of them. And that's how I generate that money. That's what I'm after. So that means that instead of doing whatever I'm doing, I spend a few extra hours doing that.
Cool. Okay, well, I think one of the fun things about these live streams are the random conversations we get into before the live stream starts. And I thought, Tag, I'd start with, you made a great comment. You said, you know, I'm living this great life done free. And guys, I was commenting on the name of his channel is pretty darn cool because Life Done Free is freedom, but it's also free because he's off grid. So he's finding ways to generate his own power and all these things. And I was like, that was strategic, right? He said, yeah. And you know, people always want to get where you're at, but they don't realize the 25 years before that you put in to get there. So let's riff on that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I think everything builds on each other and it builds on itself, you know, as you go along. And I get these questions all the time that ask about, okay, how do we get to where you're at? Well, the problem is I started many, many moons ago. I saved lots of money. I worked my ass off. I worked, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. I built all kinds of businesses, and I'm still reaping the rewards of all those businesses to this very day, as John was alluding to earlier. And so it took a whole lot of time. But the other thing is it took a lot of commitment. You don't catch me in Mexico in the summer vacationing, and you don't catch me, I don't have a Ferrari in my driveway. Although if that's where I put my resources, I certainly could have. Mm-hmm. Right. You don't catch that. You catch me sacrificing everything so that I can live like I'm camping. How weird is that? Right. But that's literally what I do, every single day. So, I mean, I think if I was going to give somebody advice of, how you get there. I mean, it starts with your brain. It starts with being committed to what you're doing. And when I mean committed, I'm not talking about the bullshit of, okay, I'm committed. I'm talking about the actual actionable steps that make you take that step forward, not the craziness that, leads up to it. I was committed to starve the beast. I was committed to break the system. I was committed to live on my own feet. And so I went out and did it because I was committed. So I think it starts right there, Nicole. What I would tell everybody is get committed, get uncomfortable.
Yeah. It strikes me that a lot of people think they need capital to get started. And there's so much that you can do that's free to set the foundation to get started. And the capital comes over time if you make that happen. But it starts in your head and starts with doing the things that you can do for free, which I think starts with taking care of your health and having some clarity of where you want to go, and then doing something every day to move forward. If you're able to keep that motivation going, that's a big step. And you may not see things change in a week, but 50 weeks from now, you'll see something has changed.
It compounds. Even if you only did one task a day, you've got 360. What's in a year? 365. You got 365 things done, right? Cumulative. And a lot of them, you have to do the first ones to get to the 10th, 15th, and it's just exponential. It's momentum.
Yeah. I think it's also the other thing you could do for free is sit down and list what you're good at. A lot of people are too humble to admit what they're good at. But you need to get over that and list what you're good at, because in that list of what you're good at is an easier jumping off point than the list of what you're bad at. You may need to fix things on this list of what you're bad at, but if you can figure out how to use what you're good at to move forward, it was better. And I was also thinking about that because I was kind of thinking about, all of us have a different background on this call, and our backgrounds have been what have made us successful in what we're doing now. Even if what we were doing then wasn't the best fit, and the bad things we did, the good things we did, it all kind of accumulates. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time obsessing on the past and worrying about that, and mad that they didn't learn X, but you learned Y, so use Y.
Well, I think the other side is you got to get yourself wrapped around the idea. If you can't control it, quit tripping on it. I mean, I drive my wife crazy because she'll say, "Hey, how do you want it?" I'm like, "I can't control that. I don't even care. I don't want the details." Next, what's the next topic? Because there's nothing I can do about it. I can't change the fact that this person's elected. I can't change the fact that this is going on. I can't change all this. But what I can do is get my ass out there and get busy. And what I can do is put myself in a better situation to withstand. And so I'm not going to spend my time trapped in the Kardashian world of, consumerism and all this craziness that goes on. Instead, I'm gonna go get busy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that's bullshit, Nicole. Not what you said. It's that's people's excuses for inaction, being stuck. I don't have time to grab somebody and drag them out. They can come to me and ask me how to do it. They can come and watch me do it. But the common denominator is it doesn't matter unless you're going to do it. If you're not good at digging, get a shovel. I guarantee everybody has one. If you're not good at building, get a hammer. Tag didn't know how to do any of that stuff he did until he did it. And he didn't dwell on what happened in the past. We can't change it. I'm not a counselor. I don't have time for anybody's past bullshit. You step into my world right here. None of that is over here. It's all over here.
Yeah. And making the choice to move forward is the best choice you can make. And it's very freeing. And sometimes it's hard. I get it. Like, we all struggle with whatever we struggle with. And just because we say it on this conversation doesn't mean it was like I snapped my fingers and it was easy. Every year I'm like, okay, the next level is this. It's a time of year in our network where we talk about a word of the year tag. Okay. So people choose a word of the year to focus on, to kind of keep their mind oriented towards one self-improvement thing. And some of my past words were grow, balance. This year it was courage. And so everybody's talking about their word of the year. And the same thing, I'm thinking, like, what do I want my next year to be? And I'm thinking like breakout or accelerate. I'm thinking of some really action words, which could make my next year hard or could make it the right year. I don't know, but that's where we're going right now.
I think I want to go to a point you mentioned there that I think is really, really important, is that, first of all, everybody, it is hard. It's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. The entire system is set up so you can't do it. from the Prussian school systems of kindergarten all the way through the consumerism, all the way through the corporate world today. It is set up for you to fail. If you're not ready to get hard and you're not ready for it to get uncomfortable, you need to go back to your apartment and do something else because they ain't going to work for you. Seriously.
Because it wouldn't be valuable. It's not valuable if it's easy. If everybody could just go do it, there would be no value to it.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody can do it too. You just have to do it. You just have to be relentless.
Yep.
You don't have, like, you got a couch in your house? Throw that motherfucker out in the front yard. You don't have time to sit on a couch if you don't have the shit you want to have. You got a TV? Cut the fucking cord on that thing. There's solutions to all of it. But the people sitting there wanting to kumbaya and sit in circles and war game rather than get the fuck up out in the rain, they're not going to do it. And those are not my people. They can be your people, but they're not my fucking people because those motherfuckers are contagious. And I do not have time for mediocre people around me. You want to perform? Then perform, and the right people will show up.
Yeah, I think Adam had it right when he said it's simple but not easy. People confuse the difference because it is not hard, guys. I'm telling you, I knew nothing about solar. Nothing. And I live off grid. I didn't know anything about water and how to move it. I've got 3 water sources I can move to anywhere on my property. We can wash water on one side with rainwater and the other side with well water. It can absolutely be done. You just got to be committed to go do it.
And sacrifice and willing to give up other things to have it. So just figure out what is more important to you. I like the guy who said everything, or the girl said everything is figure outable. Absolutely. Yeah. There is an answer. We never had these growing up, right? You had to go and seek out the information and you didn't even know what you needed. The answer to everything is in your pocket now.
Yes. Amazing.
That's just crazy because they promised me in school that was not going to be the case. And that's why I had to memorize multiplication.
Yeah, you have to know these because you're not always going to have a calculator, they said.
Now I have a supercomputer in my pocket. Why?
Yep.
That's part of the fun. Okay, so it's homestead question. Do you think there's a homestead Murphy's Law? Because I can tell you right now, I have a sheep about to give birth. It's going to be 25 tomorrow night, and I'm pretty sure I know when this lamb is going to show up. Yep. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, if you're asking me, I think what's interesting about that, and I've talked about this a lot, that maybe the testament of how good we are at this life isn't, how well we raise a sheep or whatever it is. It's how well we jump between the obstacles, how well we deal with those things every single day, because there's always something. I always have a piece of machinery broke down, a fence down, or something. Somebody's sick, something's dying, something. I mean, it's constant. And so, yeah, I think there is a Murphy's Law. I think it's just part of the process and part of the journey, which I think is also important. Quit looking at it as a destination and enjoy the journey along the way and focus on your journey through life. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be in a pine box and nobody's going to give it to you.
Yeah. Carrie says, I think Murphy was born on a homestead.
Yeah, I agree with Carrie.
And without all the turmoil and the unknown, nobody would watch any content. Nobody wants to just watch a drone fly around and see how awesome the property is. They want to see the fence that got smashed at 2 a.m. or they want to see the sheep born. And, those are the things we talk about. Nobody wants to watch a superhero movie where it's been a superhero all his life.
Right.
And Pack Rat says luck favors the prepared individual.
Yeah. Hey, Pack Rat.
That's a good point. Yeah, Pack Rat's been a great part of our community.
Yeah.
So One Step Closer says, do a time audit. Where are you spending your most precious resource?
Yes.
True.
Energy capital, the key to everything.
Yep. So anything exciting going on your homesteads? We have unexpected lambs coming.
Yeah, I've got some chickens that have been sick, which is something it seems like we deal with a lot. You're bouncing between, mites or someone's got the flu or whatever it is, right? The chicken snot, whatever it is. We got some of that stuff going on, but luckily that's the extent of the trouble on my farm.
Yeah.
When that would happen, you used to go to the co-op and they'd give you a powder that you'd put in the water. And now you can't, the co-op, a lot of co-ops, the secret is if you know a guy, there's still some of that stuff around. Yeah. But they want you to have to go to a veterinarian now and pay the vet and get the swab and have them prescribe it and take away your ability to care for these animals. There's been 52 million birds dispatched and killed in the United States now because of avian flu. The avian flu didn't kill them. Human beings killed them. And they just killed 1.5 million turkeys in, I don't remember where it was last week. And that they just killed a backyard flock in Maine last week also. So it's happening on the small scale. And if you look at it, if you have hundreds of birds, every year you lose a few birds. That just happens. It just happens. So I would keep my mouth shut about it unless you have you walk out and you got 20 birds down. Okay, maybe we should talk about it. But you got one bird, I definitely wouldn't pick that phone up and go, oh my God, can you come please bring your test that you can fucking say anything you want it to say?
Now, you know, Bee goes out there to the chicken coop and loves her birds and feeds them oregano and feeds them, you know, the stuff that her potions that she creates. And that's pretty much how we do it all the time. I won't be calling anybody. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, I called a vet once about a chicken years ago that looked like it was going to die. And he called me back and said, I'm not coming out there. You don't need to bring it in. It's either this or that. And the only remedy that might work is the specific antibiotic you can get at Tractor Supply. And it didn't work. So it was that, not this. And the chicken died. And, you know, that's when I started learning. It's funny because with the advent of the sheep in my life, the veterinary interventions that are required for the livestock here went way up. Partially because them acclimating to different pasture in a different state was a difficult time. And then, of course, we had the summer of no rain. So the cool thing is I found a veterinarian who comes out and shows me how to do the things. And she'll tell me on the phone what to try as more of a livestock care coach, as opposed to I need to get paid my $80 or whatever. And that's super helpful for me. She's like, I'll work with you, but I won't hold your hand because, you know, I'm not going to be here forever. And my type of veterinarian is going out of fashion at this point. So that's been a huge empowering thing where the veterinarian becomes your coach, as opposed to try these pills and come back in a week, try these other pills now, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good veterinarian. I like that. Yeah.
Egg bound happens too. Yep. I've never really had an egg binding problem, knock on wood, but
I don't know that I have. You better, if you're a chicken here, you better not show weakness, because if I think you're sick, we're going to just put you in the dumpster after we dispatch you. And if it's something else, we're going to still dispatch you and feed you to an animal.
Yeah.
Yep. I haven't been quite that vicious with my sheep, although any sheep that required intervention after it moved here got a collar, because you put a collar on them so you could catch them. And any sheep with a collar on butcher day went to the butcher. So that I was like, I'm going to keep it alive, but not pass on the genetics. And we actually haven't, we haven't had trouble in a long time, but we did process 5. I'm hearing a PCR test that can be diddled with. I successfully euthanized X amount of infested domestic fowl in the field. That could be a dangerous incentive.
Yep. Almost like it's by design.
Almost.
Yeah. As many other things are. I see you guys got Tabletop Farms in here. They're an interesting couple out of Missouri. They were I met them at the Self-Reliance Expo when I came down there this last time.
Yeah.
And they have a really cool operation. You ever get a chance to talk to them, you should do it. They're super fascinating.
Maybe they should email me, Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com, and schedule an interview. Just throwing that one out there.
They're really interesting. And you want to talk about people who work hard. Man,
yeah.
Those are some hard workers right there. They're boys. They came out to our homestead rotation with their whole family and helped me put up firewood for 8 hours. And there ain't a single member of that family ever stopped. They worked the entire time. So I was super impressed.
Yeah, firewood's not easy work either.
Oh.
Okay, so go ahead.
I was going to say we put up 13 and a half cords in about 8 hours.
How many do you use in the winter?
Burn? What's that, John?
How much will you burn? How much do you use? That's what
I'm going to use about 7 cords this winter, all the way through the winter. So I put up about 2 years worth of firewood in one 8-hour day in a community rotation, which is something we do down here. We go from homestead to homestead, maybe every other weekend or every third weekend, and spend one day out there. But I had, 47 people on my farm, and we chipped wood through the wood chipper. So B had mulch. We took all of the brush, cut it all up so that it could be burned. We milled lumber out of I have a sawmill, in order to create building things. And we put firewood up all in one day. It was cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I go through about Just under 2 cords every
Yeah.
winter. That's how different our winters are.
Yeah. Well, but in fairness, I also got a wood burner in my shop.
Yeah.
Right, that's eating up some of the wood. My wife cooks primarily on a wood stove.
Yeah.
So, we're eating off of it. That's our primary source. And then I've got, I got 4 fireplaces in my house. So just depends on the day, what we go through. But yeah, we'll go through about 7 cords.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Isaac says, are farmers compensated for those euthanasia orders? And I have no idea.
I don't think so.
I've not heard that. I don't know. I've not heard any of it. I have not heard that anywhere. I've heard a lot about the tests. I've heard a lot about them putting them down. But I haven't heard anything about compensation. I don't know the answer to that.
Here's my question. Are the farmers who are getting tested saying, come test me? Or are they knocking on their door and saying, we want to test you?
So I think it's both. But when they come and test your farm, they also test the next closest ones to you, depending on what that distance is.
Okay. Do they drive around looking for birds?
I don't know. Drone probably, maybe.
Yeah.
Depending on municipalities. But Yanasa Ventures talked about that yesterday, and he said, be on the lookout. The next thing like this that they're pushing, and he's not a conspiracy guy. He puts supporting evidence for everything that he's got. Sheep, ruminants, small ruminants. There's some virus that they're after right now, and they're rapidly starting to kill entire flocks so that this is eradicated from the world, from what they're saying. So you're starting to hear this right now, and you're really going to see it in the next 2 years.
That may be the chronic wasting disease fear.
Maybe.
Because I don't know if they think it goes from deer to other ruminants, but I do know that this year, Tennessee's quote unquote requiring every deer get tested that's harvested for CWD. So, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of all that.
None of us are. I mean, I'm interested in knowing more about chronic wasting disease, right?
Sure.
But, going from that to hazmat suits is frightening. Packrat says, has anybody seen an improvised wood chipper they like? Powered by a pony motor or a PTO takeoff?
I've played with the PTO chippers, and they work fine. I don't prefer it. I got one that's powered by a 6-cylinder Ford engine, and it's a big one, and we can just haul it down into the woods, and it works just fine. But the PTO ones seem to work good. I've never heard of the pony motor one. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It just depends on how many wood chips you want to make and what you could do with your time. We've had 6-inch chippers. We've had 10-inch chippers. You get to a big municipality size, like a Vermeer or, the woodchucks or something, the big, huge ones that have a winch. Once they start pulling that tree in, it does all the work for you. And those things, if you can get a choker around that thing, it'll pull in trees that you couldn't even begin to load. So we cut down, we had several acres up the road, and we hauled all the limbs and brush back here, and we put them through a chipper. And I paid 5 guys 10 hours a day to chip that sucker down. And at the end of the day, we didn't have half the pile, and we only had a wood pile. We only had wood chips up to about your hip. So when you got massive dump trucks and chipper trucks dumping wood in those huge, those huge mounds, you're not going to duplicate that at your house with a PTO chipper. If you got some twigs you want to get rid of, if you got the like we went and bought the first chipper we had was the Tractor Supply chipper. I think it was like $300-400, right?
Yeah.
You can't even put a limb the size of a broomstick through there if there's any curve to it. So by the time we cut it up, man, we had 8 hours to get a pile that was like 2 feet tall.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. My experience with wood chippers has been exactly that. I end up with very few chips.
Yeah,
but I can see the value of them. I actually sold mine though a couple years ago because the value of the money that I had in it was better than the value of the machine itself. And I know that you can rent a wood chipper if you're just going to do a day or 2 a year. So
yeah, we rented them, but I mean, and that's what we had was a rented one. But I had 5 guys, 50 man hours, and it doesn't make enough wood chips. Like if you were doing this yourself and you paid yourself minimum wage, you could save a lot of money just buying a truckload of wood chips to bring in.
100%.
Yep. Pack Rat says peste de petit ruminant. I don't know, is that French or something? PPR is something that the World Health Organization is on about right now. Probably that noise. Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. PPR. I wonder what that is. I've no knowledge of this, and I have a vet coach, just for the record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that? Like where we live, my chickens are so far away from any other animals. They're behind big fences and tall trees. They're never exposed. We don't buy animals at Tractor Supply. We grow our own, but they still get sick. It's just, I think you have to figure on whether it's a fruit tree or a chicken coop. You're losing 30% every year. And just go on it.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
We have turkey. We'll have turkeys every year. We'll have a turkey die at different times, and it's always after a thunderstorm. Always, if there's a thunderstorm, I'm going to walk out there, and there's going to be a big 60-pound turkey that died for no reason. It just happens. I don't know why, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is funny how that happens. I wonder how much of my food forest that went in is going to be here next spring when we get through the winter.
There was a day where B was cleaning out the chicken coop, and I built my chicken coop so I could pull my skid loader right up next to it. So when it came out, it would just go right in the bucket, right? Energy management, right? But anyway, so I pulled into the chicken coop to get a load and pulled out, and a couple chickens ran off and had heart attacks. I mean, literally died right there, 2 of them. Apparently I scared them to death. I don't know how that works, but
you can.
Yeah.
So here's the source of the no children on my property rule, which it's not that no children are allowed. It's that at events I can't properly supervise children, and I notice that parents don't. Some parents don't. So there are some children who've come to events who are pre-vetted. The source of this rule was the time that 3 children went down to my chicken coop and threw rocks at the chickens that screamed at them till they died of heart attacks.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they died. We don't know why. I'm like, what were you doing before they died? And they told me, and I was like, okay, well, yeah. So people get mad because I do events here and they want to bring kids. I'm like, but I can't, I've got livestock and I don't want your kids on, like, at this point, I don't want a ram headbutting a child in the pasture or any of those things. So we have a tendency to have child-friendly days on the lower head count days here. But that is what it is. But people always wonder where that came from. That is where it came from, is heart attack chickens.
I didn't know it was possible. I never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we did turkeys last year, and we were using the electronetting. Mm-hmm. And those puppies, once they get over about 4 weeks old, like it's very hard to kill a turkey, except for apparently John's turkeys that are afraid of thunder. Tactical walks out, and there's a turkey with its head through the netting doing this every time it pulses. And he's like, oh no, and he unplugs it. And the turkey gets up, shakes his head off, and walks away. Yeah. Plugs it back in, goes right back to the fence. It's like, dude, do you like that? Like, what are you doing? So there's a thread on Spag's Unfiltered forum on freesteading concerning the worst homesteading advice you ever heard. So, guys, what's the worst homesteading advice you ever heard?
Goodness.
Worst.
I don't know.
God, I can think of some of them. Some of them, like there's a rule out there that says stack it to the ceiling. That's really more of a prepper thing.
Yeah.
But you end up throwing away more than you ever keep, Goodness, worst homesteading advice.
I haven't heard a ton of bad homesteading advice, because almost everybody I know who gives homesteading advice says start with 1 or 2 things every year and do them and roll it out. But I would say I'm leery of the homesteading classes that promise you will go from $0 to $30,000 per month of revenue. And I'm seeing a lot of ads about that in just a few months by moving to a homestead. So perhaps the worst advice I've seen is in an ad campaign promising you $30,000 a month of revenue in just a few months on your homestead, because that's not a thing.
Yeah. I would argue if you want to be broke, own a homestead.
Yeah. Have a job, have a successful job, and have money to be able to homestead. I like that program.
Yeah.
If you haven't ever made $30,000 in a month doing something mainstream, you're probably not making it homesteading.
Yeah.
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 Shirob says, I can tell you about a lot I did wrong. Oh, yes, we all can.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, John.
We did a ton of stuff on the property. I don't know that I'd consider it wrong, but it's not here anymore, right? But we had to do it to get here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the most expensive fencing you're going to put up is T-posts and cattle panels. But we did that because it was super easy and we could just zip tie it together and move it. Some of it's still here. We'd have saved a ton of money had we just put in real fencing from the beginning, but I didn't have it, right? We bush hogged the whole property with 3 John Deere lawnmowers. And I mean, we would bust them. I'd take 2 broken ones in on Monday and pick up the fixed one because I couldn't afford a tractor. It's just little things like that. If I know what I knew right now today, I'd have bought a skid steer from the very beginning. I'd have got commercial construction equipment and not messed with 25 horsepower and 35 horsepower. I'd have bought the real stuff and I'd have been out on the weekends making the money with that equipment to be able to do whatever the next project on the property was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting point. I would say the same thing. I don't think it's really necessarily what you do wrong. It's that you place things in places that later you learn would be better in some other place. You know, like stuff like that. And to John's point about the skid steer, a lot of people disagree with me on this, homesteaders. I would buy a skid steer over a tractor 100 times out of 100.
Absolutely.
Not even close.
Why?
A lot of reasons. One, so the front of it, you get to put down pressure on. So that enables you, like, let's say you're digging post holes. I can dig 10 to 1 against a tractor because I can put down pressure on. Also, their maneuverability, the way they get into places. Right. The only advantage I can see in a tractor is maybe mowing a field or driving down the highway because they'll go faster. But beyond that, I really don't see a lot of advantage. I own a skid steer and it's like my best friend.
Tracks are more stable. Whatever you're working on is in front of you. I mean, it does everything better. It has way more power than all the implements have more power. Tracks are stable off. We can drive it through the mud. I mean, just take your pick other than a mower. But I mean, I mow. If I'm going to mow, I have a mower.
Yeah.
We have several mowers and I have a bush hog. I can put a bush hog on now you don't want to run tracks. You want to have small equipment through a field so you don't have compaction. But for any real job, you know, drilling holes and it also works. We use it as a forklift here. You've been in here, both of you guys. Yeah. I can take the biggest equipment, gym equipment, couches, whatever, and literally lift it up to the second floor and we can just walk it onto the loading platform up top.
Yep.
Yeah. Pack Rat says, oh, go ahead, Tag.
I just say it's not even close. Skid steer 100 times out of 100.
That would be just a really fun little survey to send out to homesteaders. Skid steer, tractor, and why? And have you tried both? Because if you haven't tried both.
If they've never operated equipment, they wouldn't know. It wouldn't be on their radar.
Right. So the permacultural zone system, the older I get, the dearer my zone 0 and zone 1 are to me. The funny thing about that is, so you hear about permaculture and you're like, what's that? And then you start reading about it and then you learn more about the zones and different ways to implement designs that work with each other and work better in your life. And then next thing you know, you look at your pantry and your business and you start realizing you're zoning that too.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So the cool thing about, and I didn't really realize that till this year. I guess I did like on some external level, but it really came down to me and very clear to me this year that once you understand how zones work, you can apply that to so many other things and it makes them more efficient too. And that efficiency helps make you more successful.
Yeah, we apply that to community.
Yeah.
You know, you got your zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4 in reference to community too. I could not agree with you more. You could absolutely apply
access.
Yep.
It makes me think of how my chef friend organizes his kitchen. He will organize things to go from this direction to that direction so that you're never crossing hands on an assembly line. Same idea, right?
Yep.
It's thinking about what feeds what. So I don't know.
I think it's super smart.
Okay, Tag, tell us about your off-grid place, like your life done free, and you've shared your journey of making an off-grid homestead. Does that mean that you really are camping every day, toasting marshmallows instead of,
You know, a lot of people ask me these questions, and I don't. For those of you who have never seen a picture of that, I don't live in a little cabin in the woods. I live in a 5,000 square foot home that's super modern, super efficient. You know, I have a buddy, an engineer buddy of mine who came into my house one day and walked in and he said, and I quote, he goes, air conditioning. What he didn't know is there was no air conditioning on. Because the way my house is built, right? Like my living room floor, for example, is 2 feet thick concrete.
Yeah.
Right. My walls are super insulated. I can move with geothermal. I can move air. I can do things like that make me less dependent. A lot of people don't understand this, but so yes, I truly live off grid. What I mean by camping is we're hauling our firewood, right? Our primary heat source is wood and our primary cook source is wood.
Mm-hmm.
In fairness, my wife has a full processing kitchen outside that runs on propane. She can go fire up her kitchen anytime she wants to bake whatever she wants to bake. But we pretty much, cook inside. We don't have a water bill. Like I said, we supply it. I have a 100-foot deep well, 7,000 gallons of rainwater storage, and a 2.5-acre pond. And we pull water from all 3 of those. My sewer's handled by a septic system. We burn most of our trash. The little stuff that I can't burn, like plastics and that, we are a little bit dependent on the dump. I got to go, once a month with a load and, take it over there to the dump. So I really have no bills other than just your elected cell phones, internet, and then of course taxes, right? I mean, I haven't figured out how to become free from that one yet. Although I'll tell you, I'm working on it. But
are you?
Of course I am. Of course I am. I believe in the theory of starving the beast, and I'm going to starve it at every corner.
If you find the answer to that, and then it's a real answer that does not get us arrested, I'm very interested.
Yeah, I don't want to go to jail. I like my freedom. I'm pretty happy out here in the, out on my land. So, yeah, so it's, people think living off grid is, this weird thing, but the truth is I live like anybody else does. The difference is that I have to manage everything. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That, I have to look at a calendar and say, okay, these are the days we're hauling wood because it's the nicest day. These are the days we're in the garden because it's the nicest day. These are the days I'm doing. So it's about management. I have to manage 1,000 things to keep everything going. What's our power today? Are we in a green day? Are we in an orange day? Are we in a red day? I've got 3 days with no sun. Well, babe, you know what? Let's not be ironing clothes on that 3rd day, right? Because I'm taxing my system.
Mm-hmm.
Management. That's all it is. Other than that, if you pulled up to my house and you ignored the solar panels and all that weird stuff out there, you'd think I was living in any other house like anybody else.
And for people that don't know, there's not only is he off the grid, there are no lines coming on the property. There's no water pipes. There's no power lines. It does not exist. And he lives just like a normal person in a city would live for the most part, right? If you walked into his house, you would not know.
No,
not at all. What are you running for a cook stove? I heard you say that you guys actually cook with wood also.
Yes, primarily. My wife baked the turkey for Thanksgiving. All of the potatoes came from my garden. I mean, she did it all right there on a wood stove. We use what's called a Kitchen Queen Grand Comfort 750 is the actual model of what we use. And it is awesome. The reason why I chose it over some of the other ones, I did a bunch of research because I'm nerdy that way, but the Kitchen Queen has a reburner in it. And the other thing is it also allows you to have glass on both doors, the firebox and the oven, which the Pioneer Princess, which was the other one we really looked hard at, did not have some of those features. And the other thing that's really nice about it's got a coil in it, John. So my second source of hot water, I have propane coming in, but I also have the coil for a stainless steel tank that I can pump with wood. Yep, that one right there. Is that a 750? That's a 550.
It's a 550.
Yeah, mine's the 750. Mine's the big one.
Which model?
It's called the Kitchen Queen Grand Comfort 750.
There it is.
Yep. And that, guys, is what we eat on every single day until the summertime comes, and then we don't cook inside in the summertime.
Did you buy direct, or did you go through Layman's, or where did you get that?
Yeah, no. So I first, when we decided the one that we wanted, I just started Googling it. I talked to 2 or 3 companies, found the best deal that was coming from somebody like-minded, because that's critical to me. I'll pay a little more money if I know my money's going to a good place. And so had a conversation, and actually, I think the company was in Tennessee. I could get it to you if you want me to.
Yeah, I'm curious.
A company called Embers, I think was the name of it. If I remember.
Embers.
It's who I ordered it through, and it took about goodness, 6 months to get, but my wife loves it. She can make the best golden bread. And you know, the other weird thing about it is the food tastes different. Because
That's not weird.
The dryer heat, or like, I don't really understand it. She does it much better than I, but she can pull out a pie and the crust is crisp.
But can she make cinnamon rolls though?
Oh yeah. Cinnamon rolls.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
John, when are you coming to visit?
Yeah.
I've actually gotten cinnamon rolls, bread pudding, cherry cobbler, cheesecake. Just trying to think what the last ones were. I'm working on a pumpkin roll right now.
Nice. And then what are you using for a wood processor? You're not splitting with a maul or a wood blaster. What do you got?
Yeah, it's all energy. So I have obviously a whole bunch of chainsaws. That's how we cut things down. We'll round it up, cut it up into rounds there. I have 2 log splitters that we'll take down into the woods in order to process it. And then what I do is we take once it's processed, we load them into those IBC totes. So I cut the top off of them. Yep. I load them in there, and then I can just stack them because each one holds a half cord of wood. And so stack them. So when we need wood, I'll just grab my skid loader with the pallet forks, pick it up, set it on the back deck. We're done.
Exactly. We're taking the bladders out of the cages. Yep. We're cutting about 12 inches off the top. We stack the wood in the cage and then take that 12-inch piece and put it over so the rain kind of sheds off. That's
smart. You know, we have tarp jars, but the problem I've run into is then they fill with pack rats.
And the tarps get chewed up. Yeah. It seems like
just one more argument for why I need a skid steer here.
Yeah.
You have no idea how simple the skid steer makes things. And anybody, it's like a video game. I'll pull the skid steer around back here just to take the trash to the dumpster just because I want to drive the skid steer. Right. It's like once you got to drive it next time you're here. You'll totally just go out and dig a hole and you'll get it. You'll be like, I see.
Well, I have prepared for a cement slab with one here before, so I'm not completely foreign to the power of those things.
Yeah. And then the closed cab, we can, whether it's hot or cold, I can have it blasting hot. I can have it blasting cold. We can be out in the wet, doing work with it.
Yeah, that's nice. So what are the key qualities of land to look for and avoid in purchasing land? Any advice on what to look for in land and or avoid when you're looking for land?
You want me to go?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I think a couple things. So first of all, the first thing that I would do, and I did a video on this a long time ago, but my channel's only been around 8 months, so it can't be that long ago, right? But anyway, I did a video about how we found our land, and I started with what was called a need and threats analysis. So I looked at what I considered to be my needs and then what I considered my threats were. And then I applied them to the map. And it was really a fascinating exercise. I got down to a 150-mile circle.
Mm-hmm.
That where I wanted to be based upon my own, beliefs. I wanted water. I wanted fertile ground. I wanted friendly people. I wanted all of those rural things. And so I just kept. So that's where I would start is what are your individual needs? Because I think they're different to everybody. Again, mine were fertile soil, land, and then I wanted to be away from population. Were my big ones. And then I laid in, the nuclear power plants and all the other little things and see if I could find this perfect spot. But I would start with your own need and threats analysis. That'd be the advice I'd give everybody.
That's a great thing to say. I would like to tag on that. Haha, no pun intended. And add that once you have that and you start listing the characteristics of what you want, think about your characteristics as outcomes. So a lot of people say, I need running water on the property. You need the ability to generate your own water. And you can do that in a lot of different ways. And sometimes we'll get overly obsessed with this feature has to be there. And unless it's like, my wife will not move unless there's a waterfall on the property or something, it's better to list out what you want from it, because there may be creative ways around it for properties that make it fit your budget, especially if you are on a really tight budget when you're doing it. Because, every time we want another characteristic, that's usually upping the price of what we're buying.
Well, I think you have to prioritize what's important, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
And whether it's the drift of population versus I want good water or versus whatever I ended up about 65 miles away from where my ground zero was. where my perfect place was.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't pull it off, and I had to sacrifice some other things. But I think, Nicole, that's great advice.
Yeah. Or if you're John Willis, you're like, which property is the most miserable to have to work on in my entire area? What would be the hardest challenge? Oh, a rock quarry. That sounds like a great idea.
So when I bought the property, we did not plan on homesteading here.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the property because there was a structure that was 10,000 feet. And that sounded awesome to me. Like, we didn't plan to put SOE in here. When I messaged her and I said, hey, we're going to buy this property. She's like, what are we going to do there? I said, well, we'll do some off-road fabrication stuff. We can have some bonfires. We can ride the razors around, right? I didn't know it was a gravel pit when I bought it.
Yeah.
So I bought the place because I thought I could, well, I couldn't afford it when I bought it, but I thought I could make it work. And it was $140,000. I bought 10 acres in a 10,000 square foot building because there was a building here. I put $500,000 in here. Right. The smart thing would have been to tear the building down and build a $500,000 building. It would have looked very different than what it looks like, right? But you don't know what you know. And it was in the center of the property. It worked. It's, you know, ideally we would move the building further back and have more property connected. But I mean, it worked. And we didn't have any topsoil. It's literally 1,000 dump trucks of wood chips that we've rotted and ran animals over. It's just like Jack's place. Did Jack know that there was hard rock under all his property when he bought it? Probably not. He probably wouldn't have bought it. But we've both been able to, you know, make it work. It's an example of what you can do. But there was no thought. Like, the morning I woke up, the day we bought this property, I didn't wake up and go, okay, we're going to go look at some properties. The gate happened to be open. We called some people and I threw out an offer. I didn't have $20, much less $140,000. I didn't have $2,000 even. But I mean, we just made it work, and it's worked out well.
Yeah. Mine, I was also not planning to homestead. I wanted a hillbilly fishing shack near the lake that I live by. And it wasn't 6 months later that I was here with my first chickens living. You know, I was camping. So Tag, when I got to my place, none of the plumbing systems really worked. Mm-hmm. So I had gotten it to the point where I had enough water flow where I could get water out of the kitchen sink, boil it, and carry it to the bathtub to bathe. And it wasn't for another few months that I figured out there was sand in all the pipes and fixed that problem. But yeah, but John's seen it. My place is super steep. Mm-hmm. It is not ideal. It's not like rolling pasture land here. It's like rocks sticking out everywhere. Also not ideal for homesteading, but I wouldn't trade it. There was one point about 10 years ago, it's 5 years in here, where I realized I was a homesteader and I could probably spend $350,000 and buy a house on a nice piece of land that you could actually easily work. Mm-hmm. And I looked around, and it was always, the location was not what I wanted. The property was perfect, but highway in front of it, or all of those things. And finally I decided I love the location here so much that I don't care that I hate my house, and I don't care that it's going to be harder work to deal with the topography here, and then just started going for it.
And having a property that's not necessarily perfect, like, you're not immediately on a waterway. If you were on a waterway, they would be up your ass all the time about rabbit manure and all kinds of stuff, man. So just like, I have zero codes. I don't have any zoning here. We do anything we want to do, and we just tell them we did. We don't even tell them we did it. If they find out, oh well, you know, and there's really something to be said for that. Like, I would love to live in Chattanooga or Pigeon Forge, but man, I'd have permit guys in here every month over something.
Yes, you would.
Well, I think John's point's super, super important. When you do your need and threats analysis, regulation should be included in that process.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How
type 1 intake.
You.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Evan says, Tag, what do you think of ICF? I'm planning to build our home here in North Carolina with that method.
Yeah, I would tell you, and I have a ton of experience at this. I've done a lot of this. ICF is superior. I would recommend it 100% of the time. It is fabulous. It's easy to work with. And the product you get at the end is just superior from an insulation perspective, from a strength perspective, from superior. I would encourage you to absolutely do it. I used ICF on my house for my basement.
Yeah.
And I would never do it another way. It is just, it's like kids playing Legos. I mean, it's just not complicated.
Yep. Says music to his ears.
Yep.
Okay. Cultivating like-minded doers to be near you. What strategies have you found most effective versus those not so much? Example, the holler community sounds wonderful. Tag alerts on real estate near him, that sort of thing. So how do you cultivate a like-minded community of doers near you?
Yeah, that's such a hard question because it takes time. And the problem is the doer part. How do you, I don't know how to say this, but to just say it bluntly. So I'm just going to say it. How do you get through the bullshit of the honeymoon and realize what's really at the end before you've made the decision that they're, that these people are close? Because that's a really hard thing. What I do is I look at it more as and I've told you guys, we've talked about this before about the interlocking circles.
Yeah.
And what we focus on is that outside circle. And we try to build, because we're going to take over a whole area. We're going to infiltrate the school boards. We're going to infiltrate the county commissioner seats. We're going to take over a whole area with like-minded. Now, the crew that I run with, that inner crew, is different.
Yeah.
And those are selected through time, pressure, all of the things that go on in building it. But I think the thing is that the more you build, the easier it becomes. Right. We're a huge community now. It's way easy for people to think that, we'll fit in somewhere. Right. There's enough of them.
Right.
Just trying to do it from the beginning. So that's hard to do. I pray for you to have discernment because it's hard. It's just hard.
It really is the pressure thing. It has to be pressure tested. I mean, you can have people show up in spring and seem just wonderful. What do they look like when it's cold outside or when it's raining outside? That's the thing I thought when you said I had all these people show up and we did firewood. Most of those people would have been doing firewood even if it ended up raining on those days, because that's the days we're doing firewood.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. One of my favorite things to do when someone says, "Hey, Tag, I'll come help you on the homestead." I'm like, all right. Because there's few people that can work with me. I'm just wired that way. Yeah. And I don't usually stop and take lunch breaks. I usually don't do those things. And so I love seeing what somebody's got in them like that. If they can hang with me all day long, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, it's just the operational pace. Because if you can't do it now, you're definitely not doing it when there's some turmoil. Yep.
Could not agree more.
I would say start with your inner circle friends and hang out.
Yeah.
Because let's say you live in New Hampshire and you don't know anybody because you just moved there. You need to start going out to things in your community and getting to know people and realize it's going to take time. You don't have that next week. The holler community, I've been here 15 years, right? The holler neighbors have been a thing for, I guess, officially for 2 years of that 15. And they were in process of developing for 4 years before that. And it was just because we share what we do here and people who are attracted to that come check it out. And some of them developed close relationships. And then we're based in ownership. So it's not like a planned community buy-in and become part of the co-op thing, because that's not how my brain works. So, and I've, we've had some bad experiences with people here.
Yep.
It's not all been like, hey, we have great holler neighbors and it's easy going. Like, we've had some conflict here.
Sure.
And we will again.
And when that happened, how long were they around before that actually happened, right? You don't really know somebody until you've known them for years.
Great point.
Yeah, like 6 months.
And these things give you the perception. I mean, look how many people, my friend. And when we really get to the raw form of it, they've never even met half their friends.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
They
put out a post on Facebook that says, or wherever you do it, Instagram or TikTok, that says, "Hey, man, my sewer's down. We've got to clean the whole septic system out. I need all the help.
I need help."
Those people that show up, those are the ones you want in your crew. Right there.
Yep.
That's absolutely true. I mean, we literally started drinking beer around the campfire. And we couldn't sit still long enough to just be drinking beer around the campfire, right? So it's like, well, we might as well work on something while we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don says, yep, that's how we ended up in Tennessee, followed the LFTN community. It's been really fun to see. I think, Tag, as you see more people who know how to do rather than take, it's very fun to see that start to take off. So
yeah, well, the bus has to be drove, and I think you can have a large community if what you have is 5 or 6 steadfast leaders who will all lead at a different position and all lead, kind of in a different thing. But if you have that, I call them the bus drivers. If you have those 4 or 5 or 6 bus drivers, I think that it's certainly possible to grow a big community. But without them, if you only have one bus driver, you're in trouble.
That's 100% true, because bus drivers get the flu.
Yes. Yes.
That's the lesson in our county. We had at one point, I think 2 weeks ago, I think there are 5 buses or so, maybe 6. 3 of them were out. So there's these long posts on the community pages on Facebook about, if your kid is on this bus, this other bus will be there because they're doing 2 routes. If your kid's on this bus, you got to drive them. Sucks to be you. Like that's where that went down to. So I love that. Got to have more than one leader. Got to have more than one bus driver too.
Yes. And I would say one other point that's important. If you can't follow, you can't lead.
Yep.
That is true.
Okay. So how long did it take your wife to figure out the difference between cooking the way she had learned to cook to cooking on that wood kitchen stove?
I would say that 80% of her learning curve happened in the first year.
Yeah.
But I think there's still some learning curve there. Like you should see that girl. First of all, I married my best friend. She's the most amazing person I've ever known. But when she pulls a tray of croissants that are golden brown on all 4 sides out of that wood cook stove, the glee that's in her face is amazing. So, but we still got some learning to do, but she's, I would say 80% there, but I'd say a year.
About a year.
Yeah, about a year. And it's a lot. Like each part of the stove has a different temperature, regardless of what the temperature says, right? And you got to learn how that stove is full of so many handles that control so much different airflow. Do you want it to go under the stove or over the stove? Or how do you want the airflow to go and the heat to go? And you got to just kind of learn it, but it was fun. I ate burnt food for 3 months.
Better burnt than undercooked, I guess, depending on what it is.
Either burnt or dehydrated for the first 3 months. It was good.
Yeah, I always wondered that because we always were like, hey, if SHTF, we'll just cook on a wood cook stove, and it's that word "just" in any sentence like that you're like, but have you? Because I know I haven't. I cook on my wood stove, which is not a cook stove, and the answer is it's crock pot style meals because it's all slow cooked on top of at that point it's one temperature. So, and
that's how it started with us. But now, my wife makes full gourmet meals on the cook stove. She's all not even a big deal. And she would tell you too that the difference between the old way and the new way is the new way has to be managed. Isn't that funny how it's the same? It's true on every aspect of the homestead. Yeah. She has to manage dinner. She can't just put logs in, throw a pot in and walk away. Yeah. She's controlling temperature and she's doing all of these things. If it starts to get cold, throw a little piece of hedge in. If it gets too hot, open the door. Whatever it is, it just has to be managed like everything else.
Do you have older children living with you that are able to help do projects? You have labor there at all?
No. So I've got, I have 2 boys. One is 29 and one is 24, but they're on with their lives, and I've learned that I had my chance and I don't ask them for help. We do it by ourselves pretty much the whole time. Now, if I need help, one phone call, I can have 40 people at my house just like that. Right. Yeah. But I'm also smart enough to know that I only get so many chits. And I'm not going to use those chits until I need those chits. So they'll get a call from me twice a year. Yeah.
I watched you standing those phone poles up using that pipe across those pallet forks. Man, I'd never thought of that. Yeah.
It works great.
Yeah. Force multiplier. So yeah. Equipment.
Yeah. It's everything. You talk about having grown kids at home to help. I have a skid loader.
Yeah. And it's faster because you don't have to get 2 other people to show up and be on the same. Yeah.
Right.
I get it.
Back. I don't have to give it lunch breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pack Rat says there's so much to know about everything. That's true. That's true.
But I think that's the joy. And I think if people who are out there living this life, remember it's not a destination. Happiness is not a destination. It's something you choose. Living free is not a destination. It's a way of life. I don't even worry about the end goal. The end goal is to live free. I'm doing it now. It's now, how can I get better at it? Mm-hmm. How can I push the boundaries? It's a journey. You're not. And here's the other thing: don't compete. Compete with yourself. Be better today than you were yesterday. Don't look at a guy like Tag who's got 20 years into this thing and say, "Oh, why am I not there?"
Yeah.
You know, where are you? And be proud of where you are, and be proud that you're awake enough to take a step, and just focus on competing against yourself.
Yeah. So Autumn Dawn, I don't know if you know this. She has a YouTube channel, and they just bought land. It's Autumn Dawn Endeavors near kind of nearish John, and they are in like starting out the off-grid journey right now.
Okay, cool.
And just sharing as they go. And I think it's so important to realize where you're at and not be. I understand wanting to strive for more,
sure,
but don't be unhappy because you don't have more yet. Be happy that you still have life in front of you to go for more.
Is that who your sheep came from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, Nicole, in my truck right now, if you looked at my rear view mirror, there's a sticker that's been on there for, I don't even know, 6 years, 7 years. And all it says is, are you proud of what you did today? Mm-hmm. And that's the motto in which I live by. Can I go to bed at night and be proud of the efforts that I put in to make my family safer and freer and healthier? Am I proud of what I did today? And I think if you lived by that motto, it would be just fine. And to Autumn Dawn, when we get done, I'll go over and subscribe to your channel, and I'll watch your journey of living free and getting off grid. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. They're doing it all too. It's just, it's funny how much work that is. It's not funny, but we forget how much work that is. Yeah. You know, I've been here 15 years and I always feel like I have not made progress here. Mm-hmm. I looked at pictures of the first year I bought this place and I was like, oh yeah, it was like that then. And I did a presentation about, you know, like how I got from here to there. I didn't know anything about permaculture. I didn't know it existed when I started. I wasn't planning the homestead. All of those things to, okay, this is where we are now. And it took a lot of years of figuring it out. And I, like John, I should have bulldozed my house and built a new one, and it would have cost me less money and taken less time. But
we are right now. Yeah, we should bulldoze this whole monstrosity out front and flatten it out. It would be a whole lot easier than working around it. That's for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and I think John needs an excuse to go buy a bulldozer.
Yeah.
Wait, don't you have a friend with one? He'll just show up? We do. Why buy one when your friend will show up with one for free?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good friend to have right there.
Imagine John could take the trash to the dumpster on the bulldozer. See how bad that would be? That would be badass.
That would be some panic prepper videos right there.
Yeah. Because I can. That's why.
That's right. That's right.
That should be a shirt.
Yes.
Because I can.
Yep. That's awesome.
Hey, Ray Pierce says, is that bulldozer armored? Asking for another friend. My prepper friends always go straight there. Okay. Packrat says, is there a best place to look for older used skid steer in Middle Tennessee? Trying to remember the name of the exit. It's one exit to the west of the Alexandria exit on I-40, which is east of Nashville, has an auction for heavy equipment.
Yeah, huge.
And I don't know what they're called.
Ohio has some enormous auctions. I think there's some really good equipment auctions. Oklahoma, there's a few in Texas. The one Nicole's talking about, it's an enormous, huge lot. Like it just never ends.
Yeah.
Try Marketplace also.
Mm-hmm.
Marketplace, Craigslist. Craigslist has a whole heavy equipment listing section.
Wait, you get Craigslist to work in Tennessee?
Yeah, does yours not?
No, all I get are scams. I stopped trying.
Oh yeah, mine works.
I get the guy who emails me and wants to send me $10,000 for a $200 item, and they're going to show up with a money order, and I give them change. That's the one I get on Craigslist. The numbers are different, but that's what I get on Craigslist.
No, I don't get any of that.
Yeah. It's almost like trying to rent a house on Craigslist. They're like, I'll take it. And it's like, that's not how that works. There is a process.
I think I would encourage everybody to just Google or whatever Tennessee consignment auctions and just see what's out there. Because if you just pay attention and be disciplined, You know, I bought my skid loader with 5 attachments. It had 900 hours on it for $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
But I waited and I was patient, and I found a golf course that was going out of business. So it spent its first 900 hours on a golf course. Had big green treads on it. You know, I had to replace the treads in it and blah, blah, blah. But just be patient. Grumpy Acres just bought one not long ago for $10,000. That was in nice shape just by being patient. So just be patient.
And be ready to go.
And then, right, be ready to strike when the time comes. Don't hem haw.
Well, and have a realistic idea of how much it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
The $500 skid steer is probably not the skid steer you want to buy.
No. Like the one we bought was $65,000. It was brand new.
It's a big boy.
We had high flow. It's got heat, air, everything. The payments on that thing are $1,200 a month. I think that's what they're at. And we're at like 0 interest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could make $1,200 in a day with that thing. So, I mean, if you're not sure about buying that thing and you're worried about job stability or whatever, I mean, if you've got a trailer and the means to move that thing, you can make a ton of money with a skid steer.
Yes.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
It is that.
Yeah. You know, and I'm typically very anti-debt, as you guys know, but that isn't a case, John, what you're talking about right there, where I think in an effort to live free, it makes perfect sense. If you could go figure out a way to get free by taking on a little debt to go be in business for yourself and not have to work for the man anymore. I mean, a situation like that is something you could probably convince me of. Man,
it truly is a force multiplier. Yeah. We buy everything. Like what you said last time we talked, you said, I buy containers full of stuff. I buy trucks. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to do that. Everything we buy, whether I need it or not, I buy full pallets because they will load them on the trailer and we no longer have to unload block one at a time. I don't have to wear gloves. I can literally just move the equipment, set it where we need it, use whatever we need, and then move the pallet wherever it's out of the way, out of the weather. Yep. And just to pay that extra money, even if you don't have the money to buy that quantity of stuff, if you're honest with yourself, even if you had to pay, if you're just paying yourself minimum wage, you are saving money by buying the quantity to use the equipment to unload with.
Energy capital.
Absolutely. And it's just where I'm 51, about to be 51. I don't heal like I used to. It's just prolonging the years at this point.
Yep.
Better quality of life.
You want better quality of life, that's for sure. Pack Rat says that's a learning curve, knowing what to pay for your equipment and what to charge for time for doing for hire jobs. The way I shortcut stuff like that is there are other people already charging for this service around me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do some research, you usually can get a good baseline and then back that out and figure out, does it seem like that's going to be worth it? Mm-hmm. That's pretty much, they say you need to charge the highest price you can get away with, basically. Mm-hmm. That's the advice. But at the same time, it's very helpful to understand what the market is and where you fit in that market. Mm-hmm. And, Hollow Roast Coffee does not compare to Starbucks, for example. We are in different price categories. Starbucks is cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
If you have all the work you can handle, raise your price.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Here, tons of people moved here. They sold their California, New York homes for 4 times value, moved here, bought beautiful pieces of property, and then were mind blown when the contractor couldn't break ground for 4 years, right? If you want to move here and you're handy, man, you could make a killing if you're willing to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's going on pretty much everywhere. I mean, it's hard to find an electrician or a plumber or someone to move dirt or to dig a pond. I was on the waiting list for the guy with the bulldozer in my pond for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Yep. Or be a well driller. You want to make money right now? Learn it and go get a well rig. Figure that out.
Yeah. I waited 7 months to get my well dug.
Yep.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Oh man, I was hating it. And you know what's crazy is that I waited 7 months and then one day they called and says, we're on our way. That's all that's it. All the notice I got.
Yep. I think
AR says, go ahead.
I think you could make good money right now if you had the ability to move shipping containers. If you could move containers and you're willing to drive, go pick those containers up. And because the tiny house thing, man, not even just to be able to store stuff in them.
Yep.
Yeah. AR says, neighbor asked me to cut a driveway for them. I called another company to come out and give me a quote and added 10%.
Yep. And that's what you, when your guys quote you, you're like, what's the price to do it this weekend?
Yeah. That's true.
Yep.
That's another one. See, I always play the other game, John. I'm like, I don't care when you do it. If somebody cancels, just show up and do it.
Right. Right. I see all these ads, especially on the marketplace, looking for best price or reasonable deal. You know why those guys aren't available? Because they're busy doing stuff where guys are like, how much to do it right now? And they can stay busy with that.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. You always get the, how do I get the best quality car repair for the cheapest price? It was
Right. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the people using used rotor oil.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a vehicle that's been at the mechanic shop for 9 months now.
Man, my guy would have knocked that out for you in 3 days.
Waiting for a part. Yeah. Well, it's not my car.
Good.
We've got a guy kind of on the edges of our community that is a mobile mechanic, and he just comes to the farm. If I can't fix it, I just call him and he'll come to the farm and fix it. Don't have to go nowhere.
And acts like he's hungry.
Oh, and he loves it. He's thankful.
Yep.
That's one thing that works great when you get the community built, is then people on the outside of the community who do business with us know that it's really kind of an all or nothing gig.
Yeah.
They take care of us or they don't, and the choice is theirs.
Yeah.
Yep. Evan says people should be pickier about who they sell their property to before complaining about things changing in their area.
Yep.
Yeah. And on the other hand of that, like, if you don't want to live next to a trailer park, don't move next to a trailer park. Mm-hmm. When you go look at your property and the dude's got 4 broken down cars and a couch out front, that's your neighbor, right? You can't change that.
Yep.
Yeah. That's totally. Well, the other strategy is buy every property around you as it comes up for sale. Mm-hmm. If you want to preserve it.
Yep.
So
every time a piece of property comes up for sale in 30 miles of me, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
All over it.
Are you placing your people very carefully?
No, I mean, that's so hard to do. Really, what I'm doing is and I get a lot of heat about this, about why would you invite somebody in your area you don't even know? Well, because I'm going to invite somebody in my area I don't even know anyway. So do I want the like-minded unknown or just the unknown?
Right. You want to be the landlord?
At least with the like-minded, when we go to vote at the school board and we go to do these things from a local position perspective, we can control it more and more and more to create the environment we want to live in. So that's why. Yeah.
Yeah, we're starting to see in Tennessee the pressures of growth. Mm-hmm. And I lived through this in Oregon once already. What happens is we now have population coming here because from a regulatory and lifestyle standpoint, it's better.
Yep.
Than places that already made all the wrong decisions about growth. Mm-hmm. And as a result, we're getting pressure for rent controls, urban growth boundaries, zoning, and all the shit that led to the problems of the places where the people left.
Yep.
Push from, stricter code requirements, all of that. And it's like, it's worked here for a long time.
Yeah.
As it is. Yeah. And it has been, not completely organic, but the organic growth that happens when you're not coming in and subsidizing stuff or putting in infrastructure to facilitate more density or dictating that this has to be farmland and that can be city. The minute you start doing that, you're setting the foundation for people to think it is their business what other people do on their property, which it should not be. And you're setting the foundation for the same problems that you're seeing in the places that did that 30 years ago. 30 years from now, that's what we get.
Yeah.
So I want to see more people in Tennessee who understand that.
Yeah.
And and that is not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's an individual realizing a lot of Republicans think that the zoning rules and all of those things are right on, and we need to force this or force that regulation. So
the Republicrats are the same party.
Yeah.
I don't like any of them.
Yeah, a friend of mine used to call them DDRs here, Democrats disguised as Republicans.
Yeah, we call them Republicans.
Republicrats. Yep.
Well, that's what a Republican nowadays, today's Republican is just an Obama era Democrat. I mean, everything slid.
Everything slid. Yep.
It's the Overton window.
Yeah, the Overton window. It was actually a pretty good book. I never thought Beck would be a good writer.
Yeah.
His book, The Overton Window, was pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't read it. I just know what the Overton window is.
Oh yeah, you
from
read
my
it.
policy days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's a good point about if you start snipping about the farm, just keep in mind I can put 50 pigs on your fence line. I have a buddy that put 50 pigs on a fence line, and he now owns the property where the guy was complaining.
Really?
Time and pressure.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Manure load.
Manure load. Yeah, that's smelly. That's very smelly. I was unhappy with 6 pigs on my property. Joel Salatin would say I was managing them wrong, and Joel Salatin would be right.
Absolutely. On purpose. I mean, I have 200 pounds of the sausage in the freezer right here from him.
Yeah, you do.
Yep, and he has the property.
Yeah, that guy's. I think I know who you're talking about, actually.
Yeah, we looked at when we were looking for land. We looked at Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri. We kind of honed all the way into the Midwest, and then just kept chunking it. But we took a hard look at Tennessee.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, and that's where it's hard. I would advise people to move to Tennessee as the place to be. Well, if it aligns with what your priorities are, sure, but it may not.
Yeah,
there are things here that like some people really they find it very difficult to come to terms with the sales tax on groceries and some of our other tax structures. And I'm like, but my land taxes are like $400 a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I'm willing to pay that. I mean, I don't like it either, but I don't like any taxes.
But those are the same people like, I won't own a house because you don't really own it because you got to pay property tax. It's the same people having those conversations.
You know, when you rent, you're not paying property tax, John.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it's the same mindset, man. Yeah, everybody's worried about saving money. How about just make more money?
Yeah. Well, and I think if you're gonna put on your threat and needs analysis taxes on groceries, you're gonna have a long run. You got to get to 2 or 3 or 4 important points, and that's where you put your stake in the ground.
Make more groceries if that's your problem.
Right.
Okay, so which tax is more offensive? It's like a video game or like a game show game. Property tax or income tax? Which one's more offensive, in your opinion?
Oh my goodness,
it's a hard one, huh?
Well, yeah, but I think they're both unconstitutional. So I'm not a fan of either one of them. I mean, on an income tax, I think it's just completely unfair. But on a property tax perspective, property tax is probably the one that burns my ass more often. Because I go pay taxes and then pay taxes and then pay taxes. I know older people who are being forced to leave their homes after they're long and paid for because the property tax now are getting so expensive that they can't stay in a home that they've maybe had 100 years that they paid off 30 years ago. I mean, this is robbery. This is why I talk about leaving this world. I talked about this in my speech when I was in Tennessee, how we leave this world the way we come in it broke because of how the system is set up to kind of beat you. So I will go with property tax, but by a very small margin.
And do we get to keep the margins where they're at, right? If I had to choose one and it was going to remain the same, I would take property tax over income tax.
Correct.
Yeah, it's predictable.
And that's by design. I mean, with the inheritance wealth, right? So these kids inherit 1,000 acres of the property. The farm doesn't generate a profit, so they immediately have to sell part of the property in order to pay the inheritance tax. And so you just have to know how to shelter that stuff. You have to put that in trusts and maneuver your things, right? Something you said earlier made me think, we set up multiple small companies to do business with each company as a tax diversion.
Yes.
They don't teach that. Of course they don't.
They don't want free thinkers, John.
No, they teach you for 5 years. You need to go to school for 12 years so that you can go to school for 4 more. And if you're going to do something prestigious, once you're done with your 4, you need another 2 to 3 years. You got people 35 years before they even work in their job field. And what they thought they wanted to do, it doesn't even exist in the same manner.
No, it does not.
The only thing it's the only thing you can't, charge off. What crazy.
Yep.
For me, property tax wins by a small margin too on that one. because it never goes away. It's the one thing where I'm like, someday they may think my property's worth more than it is. So that's how they get more in their local budgets. Oh, we've reappraised you.
Yeah, they know when we put gravel down. They know when we pull power places. They know. Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with the CHIPS Act that just passed? You guys familiar with all that? So
No.
Anyway, there's this big movement about bringing semiconductors and chip manufacturing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm involved a little bit, but I'm aware of a project to do exactly what you're talking about, John, with the smaller companies. There's a diode factory, a resistor factory, all of these coming as a collective to one park to be able to build all of these things so they can all work together. But there's a big, billions of dollar movement going on to put this park in that will do exactly what you were just talking about. Super fascinating.
Yeah. I heard there's something coming into Mississippi to do components as well. Something having to do with Tesla or with Musk or something.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch. The requests for proposals won't be out till like February or March, but the requests for informations are already out. So there's probably 30 or 40 big movements to try to do that right now. I'll leave it at that, but fascinating.
Yeah, the powers that be don't want that though, because then they couldn't graft off of international money, you know?
Yep, it is. Yeah, I could go on and on about what kind of scam it really is.
It's all a scam.
I mean, you're seeing it all over right now. It's becoming evident.
Yep.
But nobody saw inflation coming.
Well, there's no inflation, Nicole. What are you talking about?
It's a good point.
And it's healthy for the economy.
Yeah, totally healthy.
It's good for you and I. do what we tell you to do, not what we do.
That is funny. Life-work balance.
Right. That's hard.
What's your opinion on the life-work balance?
I don't have any balance.
Yeah, I don't separate.
I don't either.
Yeah.
When I'm too tired, I go to sleep. And then when I'm rested, I get up and do it all again until I'm too tired, and then I go to sleep. I'm very lucky, just like you are, right? My wife is on board, and no matter what it is I'm doing, then we're good, and it doesn't matter. Like I could be like, okay, we're moving to Alaska, and she's listening right now. That's what I'm like. We'll just go to Alaska and do the school bus thing. And she's like, I don't want to do the school bus thing, but if we go to Alaska, she'll go. I mean, we're good.
Just
we'll have
no
the nicest school bus you've ever seen. There'll be 20 of them together.
She gets her own school bus.
Yeah.
The work-life balance for me is weird because I don't really separate the two. I don't understand the difference. Like it's my life is my life. And you know, what's funny is I'll work, yesterday I probably worked 13 hours on my pod 4. And when I was done, I took a shower and ate. And when I went to bed, I laid in bed dreaming of what I was going to do today. Excited about what came for me today.
That's it exactly.
Yeah, I don't really know how. I don't even think I want to separate that, do I? I mean, I like that.
If you have to get up in the morning and you dread going to work, you need to design your life differently, right? Yeah. And it's exactly the same, man. And every time I talk to guys that are able to do literally anything they want, that's kind of the key thing. They have incorporated their entire life into what they want to do and figured out how to monetize that.
Yeah.
Where the money comes from for that. And it comes from different walks of life. Some guys, they're just able to do it. Like it's the content thing. Any homesteader should have a YouTube channel. Even if you plan on doing nothing with it, start populating it because somebody's going to want to jump in and sponsor some things you're doing. Maybe somebody will send you some shovels, affiliate links. There's 100 different ways to have $1,000 come in. But everybody's so stuck on this, especially the last few. Money's not everything. If money's not everything, why do you get up in the morning every morning to go make a little bit of it? Excited. Wake up in the morning excited. That's it exactly, man. Yeah.
There's nights I can't sleep because I'm so excited about what's coming tomorrow.
One of the big reframes I think can be really powerful for somebody who is in a job they don't like is to stop every morning thinking, oh, I have to go to work again because it's Monday, and tell yourself, I get to go to work so I can afford to do what I'm doing this weekend.
That's right.
And because it may not be your favorite thing, but it is, if you start seeing it as a step to something else, it will become that.
Yeah, I think, Nicole, I would take that even a step further. And I would say sit down and create a plan that gets you out of where you are and be excited that next day that you get to get up and be one step closer to that freedom mark. and drive into that. Drive into your plan. Don't just sit there and go, oh, I want to be, I want to escape it someday. Better go back to work. No. You got to have actionable plans. This is how I'm getting there.
Yeah, I don't want to work 5 days to earn 2 days to escape from my life, right? Instead, let's figure out how to put you on a path that every day is what you want to do.
Yep.
So Amanda points out that the school bus is not large enough for all your shoes, John.
I'll get rid of some shoes, but she'll do fine in a caboose because we're getting one of those.
Well, cabooses are cool.
I just watched a lady. I don't personally know her. She's in I think a homesteading group or something I'm in. She just bought a caboose. She's in Tennessee. She's got some like Airbnb stuff that she's set up. She's got a couple on the property. She's got a beautiful old farmhouse. And they just, and that's what I hit her up. I go, I really want one of these cabooses. What did it take to move it? And how did you do it? And man, she had it all down.
I just, had to go find this for you. Caboosesforsale.com.
Yeah. And it's an auction. She bought one out of East Tennessee.
Yeah.
They moved it, I think, under 100 miles. It was about $15,000. They crane it. They put it on tracks that are welded on the low boy.
Yeah.
And then they deliver it. And then that includes, they put down her track and her bedrock and her ties, and then they set it in place.
Mm-hmm.
So does she have to redo the inside, or is it one of the ones that's already cool?
No, they'll redo them.
There's my email, everybody. Enjoy. That was a box full of spam right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, cabooses are cool.
I just think having a plan, people just get out there and just have a plan, get moving, just take another step, another step, another step, another step, another step. You'll be fine. You'll get there.
Yeah.
And even if you're not sure what your plan is, your plan can evolve, right? If you start on that course and it's at 12 o'clock exactly, 5 miles down the road, 12 o'clock in 1 second, right? 2 miles down the road, you still see it. 5 miles, something completely different. You had to start with the foundation. It's just movement. And if you're sitting at home dreading getting up every morning, or you just, I'm in a bad mood or whatever it is, if you move, that will go away.
Yes.
If you start your day every morning for an hour without this thing. And everybody's like, well, I have to check. Trust me. If an asteroid's coming, somebody will tell you this thing. You will know. If you can start this without any other words in your ears, your own words, we have been dumbed down. Like I'm saying these things because I am guilty of it. I have reprogrammed myself to have a 10-second attention span, right? So when you can turn that thing off and be alone with your own thoughts for an hour, the end of your day will look very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Successful people are successful because they never stop succeeding regardless of what is happening.
I love that.
Right. Wise words from Willis's wife.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I think, again, it's just like living free or a lot of these things. It's the journey.
Yeah.
It's the lifestyle. When you're talking about separating home and work, I don't see the difference. It's the same.
Yeah.
I think what she said was super smart.
Yeah.
We go out of town all the time and run around and we go, antiquing and stuff. We're always working though. If we're in a restaurant, there's laptops on the table. We're sending out the emails. We're replying to customers. She drives and I'm constantly doing social media and I'm just constantly going through the website. We're always able to generate money from that. It always pays for it. And we have a blast all the time. We're always running around doing stuff.
Yeah. To your point, Tag, I think about like the last 3 weeks of my life. There has been a lot of time put into doing things like butchering deer and putting it in the freezer. That like I've been doing a lot of that kind of the homestead activities when I wasn't doing other things. Mm-hmm. And while that's not direct money for me, that actually is part of what allows me to live this lifestyle because we've got deer breakfast sausage now. Yeah. It's ready to go.
I would argue that is money. That's backside money. And that's the argument of front side and backside money, which is super. People don't understand it. Get your head wrapped around that. It's super important. You are waging the backside money equation with the deer.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah. And it was like worst day of the week. my neighbor's like, hey, do you want this deer? And I'm like, yes, I do want that deer, because he just wants the antlers. And then his buddy comes up and goes, do you want another deer? And there's that part of me going, I don't have time to butcher 2 deer right now. And I was like, of course I do. And I called up Nighthawk and I'm like, you need to quarter these deer because I'm teaching a class in 2 hours and then I will finish it. Yeah.
Yep. And food. I mean, and like you said, that's backside money. If you'd have bought food 10 years ago, you'd make more money than had you put that money into gold 10 years ago, or bullets. Bullets, guns, and food. Those are the thing. Food, some food doesn't store as well. But if you'd have bought bullets 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, aside from certain cryptos, which are tanked right now, you couldn't have had a vehicle that made as much profit as food or bullets.
Yeah, I would argue, you could put OSB in that category.
Yeah, no kidding. This is all OSB, and it was $15 a sheet. And by the time we got halfway to into the garage there, it was $65 a sheet. So that whole wall and this whole wall is $65 a sheet, and this wall is $15 a sheet. You're absolutely right.
Man, I wish I would have done all my walls at one time.
It's back to that. I should have bought the truckload. It's back. It's back. I should have bought the pallet. And we moved all that by hand.
Yep.
Yeah. The first thing I started buying by the pallet was coffee beans.
Yep.
And that makes me want that skid steer faster now that I think about what we do to move those pallets here.
I think buying by the pallet helps you out in so many ways, not just from a fiscal perspective, although that's true. Energy capital, John, to your point, is also true. But I think there's another side to it too, which is you allow whatever excess that you have, you can pass that savings on to the other community. You continue to foster your community in that way. And I do that all the time. I'll go buy a semi load of 2x6s. I only need the first pallet. So I will sell it off to the rest of the homesteads, cover my time, cover my, my energy capital, cover my things that go on. But so I think there's a lot of advantages to buying big in bulk like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do that with canning lids.
Great example.
We don't get the sleeves from Layman's because you can get cases of sleeves from Fillmore.
Yeah. Yeah. Great example.
Yeah.
You can buy a pallet of jars too. And when you buy jars, when you buy bulk, they don't come with the rings or lids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's okay, because I have more rings than any homesteader should ever have. It's absurd. And I've given them to the scrapper because everyone from the store comes with the rings and lids.
Yeah.
As if you'll only use them once.
Right.
Right. I mean, I do only use my lids once, but I'm a canning Nazi, so.
Yeah, you get along with B. She's a canning Nazi too.
Yeah, good. I want to meet B one day.
She's a great lady.
I do. I have to look at where you are in Kansas because I occasionally need to go to Kansas.
Yeah, I'm in the northeast corner. I'm about an hour and a half from Kansas City. I'm up in the very northeast corner of the state.
I'm trying to think. That's probably not far from where I go, but I have to look up where.
What's the name of the town you go?
That's what I'm looking for right now. It starts with a W. Clyde. It's Clyde. It does not start with a W. It's Clyde, Kansas.
Yeah, that's a W.
Clyde.
What county is that in?
I don't know. Clyde, Kansas County.
Clyde, Kansas is in Cloud County. Yeah. So I'm going to be about halfway between Kansas City and Cloud County.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe an hour from Cloud County, hour and a half.
I probably drive through you to get there, depending on where you are exactly. Yeah. Are the reusable Tadler lids good to go? Here is my opinion on reusable Tadler lids. I don't like messing with them, so I do not use them. But I know canners who have moved exclusively to the Tadler lids, so they are fine lids. The reason I don't like using them is when you can with them, you screw them on and then you back the lid off a quarter turn because if you over tighten it, the jars will explode. And it's a plastic lid with a rubber gasket. And when you pull them out of the canner, you have to tighten those lids down. And I don't like fussing with the hot jar. And I have had, I'd say 5% more lid seal failure with them. But a lot of people like them. It's just so dang easy to get my one-time use metal lids. So for me, it doesn't work with how I can, but I would never say don't get them, because if you want to get a set for every jar, The one thing that wears out on them is that rubber gasket over time. And so you have to replace those. And then I guess they don't recommend them for pressure canning, but I don't know. I haven't messed with that. So
the normal lids, the traditional lid, can I have that in a closet for 20 years and then have it work? Or does it have a certain percentage that goes bad? Do they dry rot?
The rubber on those, depending on how you store them, will degrade over time. Mm-hmm. So if I was going to store them, I would watch my exposure to humidity, it's extreme temperature changes. You actually don't want them too dry. Mm-hmm. So you don't want them to rust. You don't want them too dry. And then I don't know how long they'd last, but I keep them for 5 to 10 years right now.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have some well older than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're still sealing, I don't worry about it. Joe says, would you say you can? Yes, we can here.
Yeah.
B can too, right?
Oh, yeah. And she would echo your statement on the Tatler lids. She would say that she likes them fine, but there's just a higher failure rate.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, I gave them all to somebody who liked them. I was like, oh, you can have all my Tatler lids. Because originally I was going to get Tatler lids for every jar that I can. And at the end of the year, if I have 400 jars of canned food, then there's 400 lids I need. I'm good to go. And I can just keep reusing it. That was the dream.
Yeah.
And then the reality was I just use the other lids. But that's actually a good illustration of when you start this lifestyle, whatever path you go down, you're going to make a decision like that, right? Yeah. And I didn't buy lids for all my jars. I bought 2 cases of Tatler lid, tried them, decided I didn't like them, and got rid of them. And it was a fairly low barrier to entrance mistake to make. And it wasn't really a huge mistake, but it taught me a lesson about what I prefer in my life and what works in my life. And your answer may be different. Everybody's mileage is different on this, but if you don't start trying things, you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, well, I think that you call them, the failure on the Tatler lids. I would say that the hurdles that you go along the way is what makes the journey so valuable. That without it, if everything just worked and everything was perfect and it was said, everybody would be doing the same journey. It wouldn't hold any weight. It wouldn't have any value. I mean, I think that's just part of the journey. I've learned more out of failure than I ever have out of success by a long margin.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fear of failure is the first fear you should get rid of in your life. Yep. My show on Monday was a little bit about that. It's like failure is how you learn. And if you tried your hardest and failed, then what do you learn? If you failed because you didn't try, then that's on you. And that should hurt. Yeah. That should hurt.
I think failure should be embraced. I think when something doesn't work out, you should say, man, what a great lesson. And how cheap was that lesson today?
Yeah.
Me having to learn it at another time. I mean, I got out so cheap. Like I learned that for $12.50. How exciting.
I did not die.
Right. Man, I think at the end of the day, we get to choose our reality and we can look at it any way we choose to.
So the look on my face is that I just heard a thunderclap that just lasted. It's still going.
Yeah, we had it here too. It's been pouring.
Yeah, it's like still going that whole time. Crazy. I thought somebody was dragging something through my house, and then I realized that was the thunder. So now the lamb might be born because we're about to have some extreme weather. Just if somebody runs in and says the lamb's in labor, I might pop out. I'm actually more interested in, because our herd is not large, tag. I'm more interested in when it comes out, just sort of observing that it gets dry and warm enough that it survives the first, colostrum and all of that part of its life. Yep. So I will totally be there.
Have you pulled that sheep closer and it's in structure? It's away from all the others. You don't have to go out in the field to find it.
No. So the girls who look like they're about due, they are both in the same pasture together, but they have 2 structures they can go to, and we'll probably leave it alone. They're getting along currently just fine. And it has an actual metal roof structure they can go into. There's a temporary structure and a metal roof structure. And, like pigs, they're just going to decide to give birth where they give birth. I'm not going to force them into a barn or anything. And then it's the pig pasture near my house. So it's right down there.
Cool.
The only better place would be the goat pasture, but the goats are in it, and I didn't want to mess with that. So
Cool.
we just put the food forest in. I don't need it eaten by goats right now.
And it will be. Yeah.
She'll be like, tasty roses. My food forest has roses in it. It's a food and flower forest.
Yeah,
So,
that's what Amanda would like.
yes. Yeah, I put in hydrangea. I put in non-edible flowers too. Okay. Tag, do you have a root cellar? If not, why?
Yes, I do.
You want to elaborate on that a little bit? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, first of all, I live in Kansas, and although Kansas is no longer, in my opinion, Tornado Alley, I think it's shifted more towards you guys. As far as because climate's changed a little bit, so we don't really have a lot here, but I do have tornadoes, so that's important to me. And then the other thing is, my wife grows so much. I mean, she has a huge processing kitchen, and we go through all of this stuff. We literally garden from March to September.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole time. And so having one was super important, and that's what I built out of the ICF forms that they were talking about earlier, right? I mean, I built a basement, all four sides, the whole thing set into the hill, the whole thing, in order to put our food away and our processed stuff away. So the answer is yes, I do have one.
You put canned goods in your root cellar?
You do.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
I have a complex system of places in my house where canned goods can go.
We put everything down there. I mean, we hang burlap bags with squash and potatoes and apples and just whatever. It's just kind of where, but then also it gives me a place to go if the shit hits the fan, like a tornado or something.
Yeah. And your food's all there.
How big is that? How big is that?
16 by 30.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it was
okay,
bigger.
now I have root cellar envy. I'm not going to lie. 16 by 30.
Yep.
Yeah. Whatever you think you need, make it 4 times larger.
Yeah.
Yep.
No kidding.
It's funny. We're getting ready to start construction on the wall of Peony in the spring. I've got the groundwork all done. And, we're building it 20 by 50, and I'm starting to consider, is that big enough?
Yep.
Yeah.
4 times bigger and make it and have the ability to scale that. When you build a building,
right,
make sure it's modular and put all your outside eaves.
Yep.
Yep.
Twice the concrete.
We're kind of taking that approach we're going to eventually have a walk-in freezer here. And I'm taking that approach I want to be able to subdivide it so that I don't have to cool the whole thing because I need a lot of freezer and then I don't need any freezer and then I need a lot of freezer. So I haven't actually talked to Tad about that aspect of it yet, but we've drawn lots of pretty pictures here around the campfire, around the wood stove, getting ready for this.
Yeah, I think it's great.
If you use the walk-in freezer panels, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
They latch together. So, I mean, you can scale that thing out. And in theory, you could easily have some kind of moving wall in there.
Yeah. And so in theory, you can. That's where we've gotten. The question is, how does that impact the size of the compressor system that we're putting in there? So, is it a problem if it's way too big for the space for that period of time or not? Don't know.
Yeah, I think, Nicole, to your point, and I would recommend this to anybody who's wanting to get off grid, is to build modularly.
Yeah.
Whether it's, I'm talking about, when you're talking about the cooler, I would apply the same principles to your house. I would apply the same principles to your shop. I would make sure that you can shut it down to smaller areas, open it up to bigger areas, that it's super modular, because you don't know what you don't know, John, as you talk about all the time, and you don't know what's coming around the corner. And so I would apply that theory to the whole process of homesteading.
No, that's a great idea. My house is already kind of set up that way, where kitchen, living room, and wood stove area, there's a door between that and hallway and bedrooms in the back. What that means is, so when we go below zero here, it's not usual, but it does happen.
Sure.
And I drain the water from the whole system on a night like that, just so I don't have to mess with worrying about pipes, because it's Tennessee pipes. They are not, my property is not built for that. And then I can just sleep on the couch in the living room and I don't have to heat the whole house.
Mm-hmm.
And the door is closed. So that's actually really smart. Same with plumbing. Mm-hmm. I can drain parts of my house and not other parts of my house. And that's kind of a cool thing too, both to isolate when you have a problem, but also if I want to shut down and not heat this half of my house, I can drain all the water out of the bathroom on this half of the house and use the other bathroom, and I'm done. So
I think it applies to electricity. It applies to plumbing. It applies to, being able to, that whole entire process. I think that's just super, super smart.
So I want to comment on root cellaring, because there's some some chatter in the comments about root cellaring. Many people can start applying the practices of a root cellar right now fairly easily if you have a cool, dark place. It will not necessarily be ideal if it's not dug into the ground, but my root cellar is not a root cellar. It's a garage. It's a garage that was built into the side of the hill, and 2 walls are above grade, which is not ideal, but it stays cooler in the summer and stays warmer in the winter. And the humidity regulates because of the earth contact to the walls somewhat. And I can keep a bag of onions from October into April in that by just having it in there. They're not in the fridge. They're just in the root cellar. And what you want to do if you want to learn how to root cellar is start doing it. And then a best practice is don't put your onions and your garlic by other things because it will cause them to ripen, and apples too. So apples will cause your potatoes to ripen. So you have to figure out some ways of division. I do that by just having a container I put the onions in that closes, and then I put it on one side of the room and I put the other things on the other side of the room, and it's worked fine.
Plus the other stuff will take the taste on.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why you don't freeze coffee.
Yeah. Don't put your laundry detergent next to your bread.
Yeah. Yeah. Gross.
I wouldn't root cellar bread anyway.
No, but it's
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an art, and I see that Pack Rat mentioned down in there about how root cellaring is a science, and it is, and you got to control airflow, and there's a lot of stuff to that.
Yeah,
I spend a lot of time on all of that, making sure that the sun can move air and can do everything anywhere I want it to do. But that's a good point. Don't just dig a hole in the ground and think that that's okay, because there is more to it than that.
There is, and if you don't do it ideally, you're still going to get a result that's probably going to be more positive than doing nothing. I can't guarantee it. You might screw it up so badly that it is not, but usually the opposite happens. So,
yeah, but to me, if you already got to dig the hole, you might as well just build it right. You're already there.
Yeah. If you're using your garage, it is what it is. The old world root cellars had wood floors. I don't know why. The old world root cellars had earth contact on purpose to help preserve your vegetables.
So, I saw a lot of stuff last year of guys burying like 55-gallon trash cans in shaded areas.
Yep.
Maybe not the best, but I mean, it's going to be more temperature stable.
Yeah, freezers too. People do that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't messed with that. So there is a chance we are putting a root cellar in off the side of the hill, just up near the house. That's on the long-term dream list, but not the I'm ready to start doing it list. There's some other things in front of it right now. And if that happens, it will be more properly executed than the prepper pantry that I use now. I call my root cellar the prepper pantry. So
yeah. So I got a question for you two. How do you guys prioritize what happens? Is there a method that you use? Because your goals change all the time and things change all the time. How are you prioritizing what comes next?
A lot of it just has to do with what I can act on. What can I do right now, right? How much does it cost? Are the funds there to do that? Like the thing we need the most might not be achievable right now, right? So I just kind of do what we can do.
Yeah. I have a big picture vision for my property that is not rooted in a barn will go specifically here and a root cellar will go there. But it is, my goals are that I want as much food production as possible off the property without putting in all the work all the time. So when we designed my food forest, the first question was, how many hours a day do you want to spend on this? And I said, nope. Okay, well, how many hours a week? And I said, nope, here's what's really going to happen. I'm going to spend 4 days, full days, messing with this food forest and then not look at it again for 2 months, probably. That's because I will get into a project and I go all in and then I come back out. And so, yes, for the first couple of years, I can do maintenance on a regular schedule, but long term, I'm willing to accept lower production in exchange for I don't have to mess with trimming stuff all the time or messing with stuff. And so it was designed that way. And part of that plan then became that animals do some of the management.
Mm-hmm.
So we've built that into the system. But the goals on the property for me are that we become an event setter, that we have things we can model for people who are looking to get into this lifestyle and want to come here and learn things. At the same time, I want it to be something I enjoy, and that we get as much food off of it for what we eat as we can. So when I choose a project, it's what part of that plan are we most needing to work on? For the last decade, it's mostly been the training center piece.
Mm-hmm.
We've now got the training center to a, it's not where it will be in the long run, but it's to a point where it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the last, starting about 2020, because of outside pressures, I had pulled back on food production to do the event center and to get some infrastructure in. We started ramping back up on food. So now I'm going to prioritize sheep infrastructure or processing infrastructure over the root cellar, for example. Root cellar will be great. It'd be fun to do a class about it, like all of those things. But, you know, the fencing class is happening this winter. We're going to show people how to stretch fence and like dealing with the sheep that get birthed. Like all of that's a new skill for us to learn and share about. So it's hard sometimes, and it changes. You know, next year I may shift again. There's going to be a cement pad we need to pour out right under this event center again because it's dirt right now.
Yeah.
What does the root cellar look like? Do you have access from the house to the root cellar, or do you have to go outside to access the root cellar?
No, I have access from inside my house.
How about Nicole?
No.
The one you want to put in.
The one I want will be access from outside if we put it there. Yeah. That may not be ideal, but this ground is not going to be super conducive to me digging a root cellar. I basically live in a root cellar right now. Right. I have to go straight through rock underneath me to go down. So,
got it.
That doesn't mean it can't happen that way, because the other thing that's happening is the plans. So I tell you what I'm thinking right now. When we actually execute it, there will have been a wild debate among 5 of my inner circle people about how to design this thing and where I really want to put it. And one of the considerations will be that I'm 50 and in 20 years I will be 70. And as I understand it, mobility gets stronger as you get older. So I like to plan for that. And if I want to make things that I don't want to like give up on mobility, but also if I don't need to climb 9 flights of stairs for something, that's not a bad thing. That was built into the food forest too, is that we designed foot access to be easier than it would otherwise be by moving some dirt around.
Well, when you get a 35-year-old husband and your mobility is a little down.
25. Why?
Yeah.
Why 35 is too old, dude.
35
is 55 in 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got anytime we build anything or construct anything, we've got a checklist we go through, and one of those is this good for us at 70?
Yeah.
I always think about that literally every day when I walk up that big spiral staircase. I'm like, man, if I had some hardware in my leg, I'm not getting up here.
You just need one of those little seat thingies.
Yeah, cot downstairs.
Cot downstairs. Oh no, that's not. Accelerated says, how about a crawl space for a root cellar? I've never used a crawl space as a root cellar. I know other people do. I don't know how well it works.
Well, I would argue it works better than above the ground, right? I mean, it's better than an above ground bedroom.
I would be thinking about rodent control.
Yep.
In that one, because I see a lot of rodents under houses.
Yep.
When I have spaces that are uncomfortable, like a crawl space, right? Could I go through a crawl space? Absolutely. I could crawl hands and knees and go right down through a crawl space. How much stuff am I going to put there, and how frequently am I going to check on it? You know, so end of the world kind of deal. Awesome. But now we would end up with what's that smell? You know, we'd be down there 6 months from now because we wouldn't visit the area.
Right.
So for areas like that, I prefer like dry goods, right? Things that Christmas decorations and sealed containers, things like that.
Yeah. You know, we all play What's That Smell? It's a homesteader game.
Yeah.
It's usually potatoes.
Yeah, it's almost always potatoes. And it smells
and I'm like, what's that smell? Has something died? I'm looking all over the house and I'm like, oh, it's potatoes. I should put that first on my list, not last on my list.
Yep.
Turns out there were potatoes in that cabinet.
Yeah.
Looks like I'm getting a visit here.
Always, what's that noise?
Yeah. Yeah, what's that noise is that's a freaky one.
Yeah.
Sounds like metal scraping on metal. I better go look. Is it possible to build a root cellar above ground? I live on top of rock. I could build a berm type root cellar easier than below ground. Not enough dynamite. You don't. I have a visitor here.
Aw.
It's the desk kitty. This is LT. He's feeling like he needed to visit me. If I throw him down there, we'll get the dog noise that we get on these from time to time. So any opinions on building root cellars above ground under a berm?
It's not going to perform as well, right? Because the trick to getting a root cellar to work is you're using the temperature of down under. Mm-hmm. It's not going to perform as well, but you do enough insulating, you do enough of it, it's going to be absolutely better than putting in your spare bedroom.
Right.
I could be wrong. I'm not an expert by any means, but I don't see how it will ever perform the same as being underground.
And with the right size equipment, I mean, it just comes down to money. With the right size equipment, a big excavator and a drill, a breaker on the front of it, it'll break that rock up. And when you stop thinking home construction and you start thinking commercial construction, everything is different. Like they put roadways and freeways. Anything's possible. It's just knowing the guy with the equipment that has done that stuff.
Right. It's having a buddy with a bulldozer.
Yeah, you bring in a 320 excavator with a jackhammer on the front. I mean, we did it with a 175. We busted a lot of rock to get that pond 65 feet deep.
Yeah.
Wow. So Autumn Dallin says she's seen them work. You're just creating a hill. Mm-hmm. Make a big hill.
Well, and I would also argue you're also creating a bill.
A bill?
Well, because it will take, I would imagine that it would take some input to keep it the right temperature to do those kinds of things.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to us about your geothermal setup. Is it a closed system that you drilled down into the ground for, or so you went straight down and not sideways?
Yeah, no. So what I did is I took advantage of what I already had. Mm-hmm. So I took advantage of the foundation work that was already done for my house, the foundation work I did for other buildings. And, I've got trenches that are 15 feet deep that run 750 feet out.
Okay.
Because what I had to do is where my house is, the drainage system for the overflow for the rainwater and all of that, I had to trench that out 700 feet away.
Yeah.
So I already had the hole open.
You're like, I know what I can put in here.
Yeah, I'm just going to do it because I'm already there. So yeah. And then I've got some fans in my house that I can flip a switch and just push air through that hole loop and just push it right back out with no air.
So you're not going through like a radiator with circulated water or anything. It's just
not with water. I'm circulating air through a radiator though.
Okay.
A big radiator up underneath the ground.
Okay.
That we laid while we were already there.
Yeah.
And because I was already there. I like building stuff when I'm already there. I'm not a big fan of doing it afterwards.
Yeah, no. Once you have that ditch open, man, everything goes in the ditch.
Yep.
That's
extra
our
cable, extra cable, extra wiring. Yeah.
We might want power there someday.
Yeah.
So K-Bonk says it's a lost knowledge base. I would look at Backwoods Home Magazine's archives because they have done a lot on root cellars and they have put in the work to do it the right way.
Yeah, great tip.
The only other resource I know that's any good is the Encyclopedia of Country Living by Carla Emery, but she does not go into root cellars for very long. She just touches on it. So
must-have book.
Yes, that is the must-have book. That's nobody realizes it, but somebody was on our Facebook group, our Homesteader Facebook group, and they said, I just got 1.6 acres in this county, and I'm wanting to add a garden and get chickens. Any advice for me? And I said, get this book.
Right.
Get this book and read it this winter.
Yeah, must-have book.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, we're coming up on 2 hours. Anything we want to share before we sign? I know it went fast. Anything you want to share before we sign off?
Yeah, no, just, keep doing what we're doing. And, if anybody needs any help, I know that, John and Nicole will answer your guys' question. Reach out to them. I'll answer your questions. Reach out to them. Let's support each other. Let's, pick each other up. All the channels that are on here, let's help them. Let's help Nicole. Let's help John grow. Buy your coffee from Nicole. Buy your tactical equipment from John. There's no excuse to do anything else but do exactly that. Hold the line. Don't give an inch. Tag out.
All right, John.
Now, I do a live feed every night at 9 o'clock. We can have these conversations or any conversation you want to talk about. I walk around in my building and show you what we have available. I don't care whether you buy it or not. It'll be sold by the time the video ends. But we can talk about anything. I'm on Instagram. I put a little different content on Instagram and TikTok than I do on YouTube. We put up videos every day on YouTube. Just do something. And a lot of times it doesn't even matter what it is, because it's more than what most people are doing. It's more than what you're doing. Just do something. Like the person that's like, I want to get chickens. Go buy a damn chicken. Go get you 3 chickens right now and just have chickens, whether they're in your garage or they're in your shed or whatever. Just go get chickens. Just get a few of them. You don't have to get 300 of them to start with. Just get them.
Yep. And guys, Tag has a YouTube channel. It's called Life Done Free. If you have not headed over there yet, definitely give him a subscribe and then hit the bell button so you get notified when he goes live or when he posts something. A lot of good information over there. I would like to just close on back to the concept of building community. You will never build community if you don't take a risk. And the risk you have to take is exposure of you made the wrong choice of a relationship with somebody. And that's not a big risk to take, but that's the risk you need to take. It's involving people in your life. And when they end up being the wrong people, moving on, having the courage to move on. And if you do that, and if you keep your closest people to being positive influences and you're a positive influence for them, the community will build. It will build over time. If you allow the cancer to stay, that's where you run into problems. So really, I think a lot of it's about boundaries, but it's also about taking that risk and being vulnerable and getting to know people. And, people say it's hard. I'm not sure it is that hard, but it does take effort. It definitely takes effort. And it takes some thought from time to time. Anyway, those are my thoughts. We will see you next week.
Hey, Nicole, one more thing. Can I get one more thing? Hey, we just released the app yesterday for freestanding. The app. So if you want the app,
change. Yep.
Okay, so guys,
that's it.
freesteading.com is a social network where freedom of speech is honored, and it's at freesteading.com. Life Done Free has a community there. I've got a community there. You can come and interact with us. I don't think John is set up with a community yet on freesteading.com. I haven't seen it, but it's kind of like Facebook-ish. It's not Facebook, though. Don't be expecting Facebook. It's nothing like Facebook, but it's kind of like if you want to be put in the universe. So people are sharing all sorts of positive stuff there all the time. And what Tag was just telling us is you used to have to go to freesteading.com to use it. Now there is a phone app that you can install on your phone. Is it Android and Apple?
Both.
All right. Which is going to make it take off. So go over there and get to know some people. There's great people over there. John's holding up the app right now.
Yep.
freesteading.com. All right. Thanks for being on today, Tag.
Of course.